What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 339 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, as you can see, I've got my Batman mask on. That means we're talking about another Batman book. Today we will be discussing Batman Dark Knight, Dark City, written by Peter Milligan, with art by a few different artists, Kieran Dwyer, Jim Aparo, Tom Mandrake, Dennis Junk, and then edited by Mike DiCarlo. Several different people involved with this book. The first three issues is the Dark Knight, Dark City story, and then there's 5 issues that are also written by Peter Milligan that don't have anything to do with the Dark Knight, Dark City story. And over the years, I had heard a couple of people talk about this story, really talk it up as being a fantastic story. Chris Sims, who used to write at the Comics Alliance website, he said this was his favorite Riddler story. And so that's high praise right there. Of course, there's not that many Riddler stories over the years. He's been in stories. For example, he was in The Long Halloween, he was in Hush, but those are not Riddler stories. Those are stories that Riddler is in, and I do think there is a difference. But this is a Riddler story, and it's pretty good. This is a very different take on Riddler than what I've seen before. Usually, he's portrayed as being a thinker, a strategist, someone who can match wits with Batman, but not really a physical threat for Batman. This is a little bit different. He's still not much of a physical threat, but he is a very different kind of threat here than what he usually is portrayed as. Not sure if I like this version of the Riddler. I think my favorite version of the Riddler was one that Neil Gaiman wrote in a Secret Origins issue, I believe, and that was a kind of a gentleman version of the character where he misses the days of supervillains being polite and having good manners, and I really liked that version of the Riddler. This is maybe the farthest version of the Riddler that you could get away from my favorite version of the character, but I still really like this story. It introduces the Bat God Barbathos, I guess is how it's pronounced, or Barbathos, I don't know. That's a thing that was used in Grant Morrison's run on Batman from the mid-2000s. I had no idea that that was not something that Morrison had created, and there have been different stories with Bat mythology infused into the story. For example, Shaman, written by Denny O'Neil, also kind of hints at a Bat God and some demon stuff going on, supernatural stuff. This is much less subtle than Shaman is, and outright mentions the character Barbathos. So I didn't know that that was something that Grant Morrison didn't come up with, so that's kind of cool. If you like Grant Morrison's run, you should definitely read this for that. And then you've got 5 other stories. Like I said, they don't have anything to do with Dark City, Dark Knight, or Dark Knight, Dark City. There's a 2-parter with this old, not a Holocaust survivor. He's from, actually, I don't think it says where he's from, but he is an older Jewish man, and he creates a golem to stop some neo-Nazis from their reign of terror in Gotham City, and that's a pretty good story. That's a 2-parter, and then we get a story that is very similar to the Batman the Animated Series episode. I don't remember the title, but it's the one where the Mad Hatter tries to give Batman everything that he wants in his own little dream state. It's very similar to that. It's not a Mad Hatter story. It is a little bit different from that episode, but I would be very surprised if I found out that nobody who worked on that episode had read this issue. This came out in like 1990, so just right around the time when Batman the Animated Series was getting ready to get started, and I feel like this issue had to have been an inspiration for that episode. Maybe not, I don't know. But then you also get a story, let's see, what were the others in here? Oh, this isn't good. I don't remember the others. Hold on, I'm going to look real quick because, oh yes, there's an issue. I had to look to remind myself. I just read it earlier today, so I should remember this. There's one with these 2 assassins, actually technically 3. One of them is a pair of Siamese twins, and it's interesting and weird because the Siamese twins, one of them is a black guy and one of them is a white guy. I have no idea how they became conjoined because I'm assuming they're not brothers, but they are hunting down this other assassin who has gone around killing mobsters and killers, and so he's sort of like a vigilante, but he is a hired gun, and this issue doesn't actually explain who hired him to kill all these people, but he is supposed to be the nicest assassin out there. Like, he's able to convince people to do stuff. At one point, he convinces a guy to give him a book for free. Whenever they're taking him somewhere, he's able to convince people, like, hey, can you give me a ride, like, in the bus? Like, I don't have any money on me, can you give me a ride for free? He's supposed to be, like, just have these compulsion powers almost. And this guy, the nice guy, he is being hunted down by the Siamese twins, and Batman is trying to save him so that he can be executed legally the right way by the book. That's a pretty good issue. It's a little weird because it's a story within a story. When it starts off, Batman sees something happening, and then he says, that reminds me of something something that happened 3 months ago, and then we jump into the main meat of the issue, and then we come back to what happened, and it's a pretty good issue. Overall, I like this book quite a bit. I like the writing here. There are times when the captions, the narration by Batman, is laid on a little thick, maybe, and I haven't read The Dark Knight Returns in a really long time, but it kind of reminded me of what people think of when they think of The Dark Knight Returns, how it's really grim and gritty, how he'll say something like, this city is a demonic pit of evil, and I am going to cleanse it, something like that. There are times when the narration here reminds me of that, and then there are times where the tone lets up a little bit, and it almost feels like Batman is joking. At one point, when he's fighting the Golem in the two-parter, he is able to defeat it or temporarily drive it away, and as he's leaving the restaurant where he was fighting this thing, he says, okay, everyone go back to your dinner, and thanks for all your help. That's a little bit funny. Obviously, these guys wouldn't have been able to have done anything against the Golem if Batman wasn't able to, but it's still a little bit of a light moment in a fairly serious issue, and so I like that at times we're able to balance that. The Dark Knight, Dark City three-parter is pretty grim and pretty brutal, but I think that it's still a pretty good story, told very well. Maybe just a little over the top, like I said, with the narration stuff, but overall, I think that this is a collection that is definitely worth your time and money. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm happy to see that stuff from 20 years ago, wow, over that, actually 25 years ago, I'm glad to see the stuff from that time period is being collected today still. A lot of times I am more interested in reading stuff from a long time ago than I am stuff from today, so I'm really glad to see that DC is still collecting stuff from 25, 30 years ago and giving it to people who didn't have a chance to read it the first time. So those are my thoughts on Batman Dark Knight Dark City. I hope that you guys liked this review, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.